But he might probably argue that the illustration I have used shows that this is the very wisest way to exercise private judgment. The lady of my illustration surely does the wisest thing if she attempts no other way of dealing with her estate than, after taking the best advice she can get, entrusting herself to a good agent. Do we not, in every department of conduct, submit our own judgment to that of skilled persons? If we are sick, or if a member of our family is so, we do not try to study the case out of medical books. We call in a physician of repute, and submit implicitly to his directions. If we go to sea, we leave the navigation of the vessel in the hands of the captain. If we have a difficult lawsuit, we do not try to conduct it ourselves. We take legal advice, and permit our advisor to determine our course of action. Why should we think that the problems of religion are so simple that skilled and unskilled persons are on a par, and that this is the only subject in the world in which a man is to be ashamed to submit his judgment to that of those who are wiser than himself? This is by no means an uncommon line of argument for a Roman Catholic advocate to use, but it shows that he does not at all understand the nature of the claim to infallibility made on behalf of his church, of which claim this argument is, in real truth, entirely subversive. For it would be absurd misrepresentation to suggest that any of us who insists on the necessity of private judgment thinks it a matter of indifference whether a man uses his judgment rightly. On the contrary, we think it every man's duty who has to make a decision to use every means in his power to guide his judgment rightly. Not the least of these means is the instruction and advice of people better informed than ourselves. I do not suppose that any different rule in this respect prevails in matters of religion and in other matters, or that theology is the only science in the world that can be known by the light of nature, and in which a man who has given no thought to the subject stands on a level with one who has. The illustrations we have used, then, justify a clergyman in claiming deference for his opinion on theological subjects from a layman just so far and no more as he has given more and more prayerful study to those subjects than the layman has. It is just so in other cases. Why do we defer to the opinion of a barrister in matters of law and to that of a physician in questions of medicine? Not because of their official position, but because of their superior acquaintance with the subject. We do not imagine that an idle young man who has eaten his dinners and got called to the bar becomes, by reason of his new dignity, qualified to conduct an important lawsuit, or that we may not, without breach of modesty, prefer our own interpretation of an act of Parliament to his. And so if you give no heed to theological study, the mere fact of your ordination will not entitle you to claim deference for your opinion from members of your congregation, among whom you may easily find some better informed than yourself. On what grounds, then, do those who insist on the infallibility of the Church of Rome claim deference for the authority of the Pope? Is it on the ground on which the illustrations we have used show that deference may rightly be claimed, namely, that superior knowledge, which is the natural result of greater learning and deeper study? Clearly no such thing. The deference claimed is alleged to be due to the Pope's official position solely, and is demanded from the most learned and the most ignorant of his subjects equally. Now, on the principle that a man is likely to know more of a subject the more he has studied it, which of the two had a right to claim that his judgment deserved to be received with respect? Von Dollinger, when he said that the doctrine of the Pope's personal infallibility was a mere novelty, unknown to the Church of former times? Or Pius IX, when he declared that the Church had always held it? The one might be considered as entitled to speak on Church history with the authority of an expert. The other was an Italian ecclesiastic of no reputation for learning, to whose opinion on a question of Church history, if it were not for his official position, no one would dream of paying the slightest attention. You see, then, that the illustrations which have been appealed to are utterly destructive of the papal claims. In truth, the ultra-Protestants and the ultra-Papists are in complete agreement in their contempt for theological and ecclesiastical learning, and in their resistance to that claim to deference for the opinion of the clergy which is made precisely so far, and no more, as by diligent and prayerful study the clergy have learned to know more than those who are asked to defer to them. In the Roman Catholic Church, as much as in the wildest Protestant sect, learning must give way to ignorance and prejudice. Let a theological opinion commend itself to the superstitious and ignorant of the people. Let the practices founded on it become prevalent. Then let the Pope, who may be quite as superstitious and ignorant himself, give formal expression to it, and the learned have only the humiliating choice whether they will be turned out, like Van Dollinger, or give an amazed and reluctant assent, like Cardinal Newman. I must not part with this illustration without pointing out that the kind of deference to his authority which the most learned divine may claim is of a different nature from that which the captain of a ship may demand from his passengers, or a physician from his patients. The passengers do not go into a ship to learn navigation, but to be carried to their journeys in the quickest way. A physician's patients want to be cured of their disease and not to be taught medical science. If in the Christian, as in many heathen systems, the art of propitiating the divinities was a special craft known to the priesthood alone, then the analogy would subsist, and we ought to trouble ourselves no more about the secrets of the art by which the priesthood gained for us the divine favor, than a passenger on shipboard troubles himself about lunar observations in the nautical almanac. But the promise to Christ's church was, all thy people shall be taught of God. In the Christian system, religious knowledge is not the secret of one profession, but the privilege and the duty of all the people. And the duty of the clergy is to teach those committed to their care. It follows at once that the relation between them and their flocks is not that between a physician and his patients, but rather that between the physician and the class of students of whom he is teaching medical science. From the members of such a class he is entitled to the deference to which his superior knowledge gives him a right. His students would make no progress if they were indocile to their instructor, if they were captious and conceited, full of the belief that they had already knowledge enough, and that the old woman's remedies which their grandmothers or aunts had taught them could not be improved on by the highest medical science. And yet the instructor must be a bad one, or his pupils of mean capacity, if they do not arrive at a point when their beliefs rest on a better foundation than their teacher's word. When they are able to verify for themselves the things which they at first accepted from him with meekness and docility. When they feel that they may, without breach of modesty, criticize what he has told them and perhaps improve on it.